The Daily Rounds. Chapter 1. Patterns. I've lived on Maple Street for 43 years, which means I've seen approximately 15,695 sunrises from my front porch. Give or take a few hundred for sick days and that regrettable trip to Cancun in 1997. Biscuit, my 12-year-old basset hound, has been with me for the last 12 of those years, which in dog years makes him practically a founding father of this neighborhood. Together, we've developed what my daughter Sarah calls an unhealthy fixation with other people's business. I prefer to think of it as civic engagement. Morning, Walter. Mrs. Chen called from across the street, waving her gardening shears at me. It was 6:47 a.m., exactly 3 minutes later than her usual schedule. I made a mental note. Trouble sleeping, probably. Her roses looked worried. Morning, Linda. I called back. Everything all right? Oh, Tom's snoring is getting worse. She shook her head and returned to her begonias. See? Civic engagement. Biscuit let out a long, philosophical sigh, and settled his considerable bulk more firmly against my feet. He'd learned years ago that our morning porch sessions could last anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on neighborhood activity levels and my prostrate's cooperation. At 7:02, right on schedule, Jennifer Martinez jogged past in her neon yellow running gear. She waved without breaking stride, her ponytail swinging like a metronome. Biscuit's tail thumped twice against the porch boards. His standard greeting for regulars who didn't try to pet him before 9 a.m. Looks like rain, I told him, eyeing the clouds gathering over the Henderson's roof 3 doors down. Biscuit's left ear twitched. Agreement. The Hendersons were new, relatively speaking. Only been here 8 months. They seemed nice enough. Kept their lawn trim, didn't play music too loud, always waved hello. But I'd noticed Rick Henderson had been leaving for work later and later each week. Today he didn't emerge until 7:34, a full 47 minutes behind his original schedule from February. His tie was crooked, and he'd missed a patch shaving on his left jaw. Trouble at work? I murmured to Biscuit. Or trouble at home pretending to be trouble at work? Biscuit yawned, showcasing his remaining teeth to the morning air. At 8:15, the real show began. The school run. This was when Maple Street transformed from a sleepy residential road into a NASCAR qualifying round, as parents who'd overslept. The Johnsons. Parents who were constitutionally incapable of time management. The Patels. And parents who simply enjoyed living on the edge. Looking at you, Marcus Williams. All converged on the street in a cacophony of rushing engines and slamming doors. Here we go, I said, and Biscuit's ears perked up to half-mast, which for him was the equivalent of standing at attention. First came Angela Johnson in her minivan, taking the corner at a speed that suggested she'd just remembered it was picture day. 2 houses down, Dev Patel sprinted out his front door, holding a lunchbox in one hand and what appeared to be a science project in the other. Something involving a volcano, judging by the papier-mâché. Careful with that, Dev, I called out. He grinned and gave me a thumbs up, nearly dropping the volcano in the process. Then Marcus Williams's ancient Buick rumbled past, bass thumping, with his daughter Sophie hanging out the window trying to finish her mascara. Morning, Mr. Peterson, she shouted. Looking good. Liar, I shouted back, but I smiled. Biscuit woofed once. His daily disapproval of the bass levels that rattled our windows. By 8:45, the street had returned to its usual quiet. The stay-at-home parents emerged. Tommy Reed pushing his twin toddlers in a double stroller, heading for the park. Cynthia Albright power walking with her enormous headphones, moving her lips to whatever podcast was telling her how to optimize her morning routine. I waved to both. Tommy waved back. Cynthia was in the zone and didn't see me, but that was fine. She'd wave on the return trip. At 9:30, I finally heaved myself up from the chair, my knees making sounds like someone crumpling a paper bag. Biscuit looked up at me with the long-suffering expression of someone being asked to relocate against their will. "Come on, old man. Time for the rounds." Biscuit sighed again, but he got up. We'd been doing this walk twice a day for 12 years. His enthusiasm had waned somewhere around year 3, but his commitment remained absolute. We made our way down the porch steps at a pace that could charitably be described as glacial. Mrs. Chen had gone inside, but her garden gate was slightly ajar. She'd been in a hurry. I made another mental note. Our route never varied. Down to the corner, left on Oak, around the small park, up Birch, and back to Maple. 1.4 miles, according to my old pedometer. Took us about 45 minutes these days, though it had taken 20 when Biscuit's legs were younger and my hip was cooperating. We passed the Kowalski's place. Their newspaper was still in the driveway. Stanley Kowalski was usually up at dawn, grabbing that paper before his wife could read about how the stock market was treating his retirement fund. But there it sat, wrapped in blue plastic. Probably sleeping in. I told Biscuit. Lucky man. But I filed it away. At the corner, we encountered Harold Chen, Linda's husband, coming back from his walk. Harold did 3 miles every morning, a route that took him through the neighborhoods on either side of ours. He was our connection to the greater metropolitan ecosystem of gossip. Walter. He nodded. Biscuit. Biscuit's tail wagged twice. Harold. What's the word from the outside world? Elm Street's having issues with their HOA again. Something about the color of someone's shutters. He shook his head. Also, there's been a few break-ins over on Sycamore. That made me pause. Sycamore was only 4 blocks over. What kind of break-ins? Daytime stuff. Someone's hitting houses between 10 and 2, when people are at work. Took the bishop's TV and some jewelry from the Fenways. I frowned. Police know? They're looking into it. Probably kids. Harold shifted his water bottle from one hand to the other. Linda wants me to tell you to stop spying on our house. I don't spy. I said with dignity. I observe. You counted how many times our garbage truck missed our bin last month? 3 times. That's unacceptable service. Harold smiled. You're a treasure, Walter. Don't let anyone tell you different. We parted ways, and Biscuit and I continued our rounds. The park was empty except for a squirrel that Biscuit watched with the intensity of a much younger, more energetic dog. The squirrel, sensing no real danger, practically yawned at him. On Birch Street, I noticed something odd. The Kramer's recycling bin was out, but it was Wednesday. Recycling was Thursday. Had been Thursday for 4 decades. I stopped, staring at the blue bin like it was a UFO that had landed on their lawn. Biscuit stopped too, looking up at me with concern. That's not right, I said. The bin sat there, defiant in its wrongness. I made a note to mention it to Joe Kramer next time I saw him. Probably just got confused. Joe was only 62. Still practically a child. But everyone had off days. We completed our circuit and arrived back home at 10:23, which was 7 minutes slower than yesterday but 3 minutes faster than last Wednesday. Trends were important. Back on the porch, I settled into my chair, and Biscuit collapsed at my feet like he'd just completed a marathon. I pulled out the small notebook I kept in my shirt pocket and jotted down the morning's observations. Mrs. Chen's gate, Henderson's late departure, Kowalski's newspaper, the recycling bin mystery. Probably nothing, I told Biscuit. His ear twitched. Probably nothing, I thought again. But in 43 years on Maple Street, I'd learned that probably nothing sometimes meant something. And something sometimes meant everything. The clouds I'd noticed earlier were getting darker. Rain by lunch, I figured. I hoped Jennifer had finished her run. I hoped the Johnson kids had umbrellas for the walk home from school. I hoped I was wrong about Rick Henderson. And I definitely hoped that whoever was breaking into houses on Sycamore would stay on Sycamore and far away from Maple Street. Biscuit fell asleep almost immediately, his snores joining the ambient symphony of suburban morning. Lawn mowers in the distance, wind chimes from the Albright house, a car alarm going off somewhere on the next block. I stayed awake, watching. Chapter 2. Irregularities. The rain started at 11:43, exactly when I'd predicted, which gave me a small and entirely unearned sense of satisfaction. Biscuit opened one eye, decided the weather wasn't worth his attention, and went back to sleep. I was contemplating lunch when Sarah's car pulled into my driveway. This was unusual. Sarah visited on Sundays, regular as clockwork. It was Wednesday. She emerged from her sensible hybrid with 2 grocery bags and the expression of someone who decided to do something, whether I liked it or not. "Dad, you can't live on canned soup and crackers." "Hello to you too, sweetheart." "And I don't. Sometimes I have toast." She swept past me into the house, Biscuit managing to open both eyes for her arrival. Sarah was his second favorite person in the world, right after me and slightly ahead of whoever happened to be holding treats. "I'm making you real food," she announced from inside. "Food with nutrients." I heaved myself up and followed her in. "I had an apple yesterday. Was it covered in caramel?" "Perhaps." 20 minutes later, we sat at my kitchen table eating sandwiches that Sarah had constructed with the precision of an architect. Turkey, avocado, tomato, some kind of sprouts that looked like something I'd spent 60 years trying to remove from my lawn. "These are delicious," I admitted. "I know." She took a bite of her own sandwich. "So, Mom called me." I paused mid-chew. Evelyn and I had been divorced for 15 years, but she still maintained an intelligence network that would make the CIA jealous. "And? She heard from Carol Henderson that you've been watching their house." "Carol Henderson? Rick Henderson's wife." "I watch everyone's house. It's what I do." "Dad." Sarah put down her sandwich and gave me the look. The one she'd inherited from her mother, the one that suggested she loved me but found me exhausting. Normal people don't keep notebooks about their neighbors. Normal people don't notice when something's wrong, either. And what's wrong with the Hendersons? I considered this. What did I actually know? Rick's been leaving later for work. Looks stressed. Carol's been staying inside more. Haven't seen her at book club in 3 weeks. Maybe she's busy. Maybe he got a new schedule. Maybe they're fine and you're just. She waved her hand, searching for the word. Observant? I was going to say nosy, but sure. Biscuit, who'd been sitting hopefully between our chairs, woofed softly. Sarah slipped him a piece of turkey when she thought I wasn't looking. "I saw that. He's a good boy. He deserves turkey. He's on a diet. He's perfect exactly as he is." Sarah scratched behind Biscuit's ears, and his back leg started that automatic scratching motion. "Dad, I worry about you out here alone." "I'm not alone. I have Biscuit." Biscuit is 140 in dog years. We prefer to think of him as vintage. She smiled, but it was her worried smile. "I just mean, maybe you need more to do. Have you thought about joining that community center? They have classes. Pottery. Tai Chi. I have plenty to do. Sitting on your porch judging people isn't a hobby. I don't judge. I observe. And besides, someone needs to keep an eye on things. You heard about Sycamore Street? That got her attention. The break-ins? Mom mentioned something. 3 houses in 2 weeks. Daytime robberies. I leaned back in my chair. It's not kids, whatever Harold thinks. How do you know? Kids would take game consoles and laptops. Easy to carry, easy to sell. These people are taking TVs, jewelry, small appliances. They know what they're doing and they're taking their time. That means they're watching the houses, learning the schedules. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, that's actually pretty smart reasoning. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not surprised. I just forget sometimes that you were a... She paused. Claims adjuster. For 32 years. You think I don't know how to spot irregular patterns? I took another bite of sandwich. These really are good. There's more in your fridge. They'll last until Friday. You're a good daughter. I'm a worried daughter. She started clearing plates. Just promise me you won't do anything weird, okay? If you see something suspicious, call the police. Don't try to be a hero. I'm 74 years old with a replacement hip and a dog who can't climb stairs without having an existential crisis. Trust me, heroism isn't on the agenda. She left around 1:30, after making me promise to eat vegetables at least twice a week and to call her if I needed anything. I promised, because it made her happy and because she was probably right about the vegetables. Biscuit and I returned to the porch. The rain had settled into a steady drizzle. The street was quiet. Too quiet for a normal Wednesday afternoon. That's when I noticed the van. It was parked 3 houses down, in front of the Patel's place. White, generic, no company logo on the side. A man in jeans and a dark hoodie sat in the driver's seat, looking at his phone. I watched him for 10 minutes. He didn't move. Didn't get out. Just sat there. Biscuit noticed too. His ears went to half-mast again. Probably waiting for someone. I muttered. But the Patels both worked. Their kids were at school. No one was home. I pulled out my notebook and wrote down. White van, license plate. I squinted. Too far to read, and I'd left my good glasses inside. I noted the time. 1:47 p.m. At 2:03, the van pulled away. No one had come out of the Patel's house. No one had gotten into the van. The driver had just sat there, watching. Or maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe he'd been waiting for someone who'd told him the wrong address. Maybe he'd been on a phone call. Maybe he just needed a place to park while he finished whatever he was doing on his phone. Maybe. I made another note anyway. The afternoon proceeded normally after that. The school run in reverse at 3:15. Kids spilling out of buses and cars, the neighborhood suddenly alive with shouts and bicycle bells and basketballs bouncing on driveways. Sophie Williams waved at me from her dad's car. Dev Patel showed me his volcano, which had apparently survived picture day intact. The Johnson kids ran past in a pack, arguing about whose turn it was to feed their dog. At 4:30, I noticed Stanley Kowalski's newspaper was still in his driveway. That was wrong. Very wrong. Stanley was retired, sure, but he was healthy. Active. He and his wife Marie took their RV camping every other month. Stanley was the kind of guy who did crossword puzzles in pen and actually finished them. He wouldn't leave his newspaper in the driveway all day. I stared at the paper for a long moment. Then I looked at Biscuit. What do you think? Biscuit looked at the Kowalski's house, then back at me. If a dog could shrug, he would have. Right. Civic engagement. I walked over to the Kowalski's house. A journey of approximately 40 yards that took me 3 minutes. And rang the doorbell. Waited. Rang again. Nothing. Their cars were both in the garage. I could see through the small windows. The lights were off, but it was daytime. That wasn't unusual. The curtains were drawn. Also not necessarily unusual. But the newspaper. That newspaper. I pulled out my cell phone. A device Sarah had forced on me 2 years ago that I still barely knew how to use. And called the Kowalski's number. I heard it ringing inside the house. No one answered. Probably went on a trip. I told Biscuit when I'd returned to my porch. Probably left early this morning before the paper came. Forgot to stop delivery. Biscuit's expression suggested he wasn't buying it either. At 5:47, Rick Henderson came home. He looked worse than he had this morning. Tie loosened, shoulders slumped, briefcase dragging. Carol opened the door for him, and in the brief moment before it closed, I could see her face. She looked like she'd been crying. I wrote it down. Hated myself a little for writing it down. But I wrote it down. At 6:30, Jennifer Martinez jogged past on her evening run, this time in gray instead of yellow. She waved. Biscuit's tail thumped. At 7:15, the white van came back. Same van. Same driver. This time it parked in front of my house. I sat very still. Biscuit stood up, which was noteworthy. Biscuit rarely stood up after 7 p.m. The driver stayed in the van, looking at his phone again. Or looking at the houses while pretending to look at his phone. From this distance, I still couldn't see his face clearly or read the license plate. My hand crept toward my cell phone. After 5 minutes, the van pulled away, driving slowly down Maple Street before turning onto Oak. I picked up the phone and dialed. Maple Street Police Station, how can I help you? Yes, hello. My name is Walter Peterson. I live at 247 Maple Street. I'd like to report a suspicious vehicle. Chapter 3. Escalation. The police officer who showed up was approximately 12 years old. I know it's impossible, but Officer Danny Chen, Harold and Linda's youngest nephew, as I learned, looked like he should have been worrying about algebra homework, not suspicious vehicles. Mr. Peterson. He stood on my porch with a notepad, looking earnest and scrubbed and thoroughly unconvincing as a figure of authority. That's me. And this is Biscuit. Hi, Biscuit. Officer Chen crouched down and scratched Biscuit's ears. Biscuit, a traitor, immediately loved him. Uncle Harold talks about you guys all the time. All good things, I hope. He says you know everything that happens on this street. Officer Chen straightened up. So, you called about a suspicious van. I walked him through it. The van parked near the Patel's house this afternoon, then returning this evening to park near my house. The driver who never got out, just sat and looked at his phone. The lack of company logos or identification. Officer Chen wrote it all down, nodding. Did you get a license plate number? Eyes aren't what they used to be. It was too far away. Can you describe the driver? White or light-skinned Hispanic, maybe. Dark hoodie. That's all I could see. I paused. You think I'm just a paranoid old man? No, sir. He said it quickly, sincerely. After what happened on Sycamore Street, we're taking all reports seriously. Can I ask what made you think the van was suspicious? Wrong time, wrong behavior. People who park on residential streets either live here, are visiting someone specific, or are making a delivery. This guy was doing none of those things. He was watching. Watching what? The houses. Learning schedules. Seeing who's home, who's not. I gestured down the street. The Patels both work 9 to 5. Their kids don't get home until 3:30. That's a 6.5-hour window. The Hendersons. Rick works until 6, Carol's usually home but she's been distracted lately. The Johnsons both work from home but they're in meetings all day. The Williamses, you know everyone's schedule? I shrugged. I pay attention. Officer Chen was quiet for a moment, looking at me with new respect. Mr. Peterson, would you be willing to call us if you see this van again? We can't station an officer here, but if you give us a heads up, we can have someone cruise by. Of course. He handed me a card with his direct number. Call me anytime. Uncle Harold's right about you. After he left, I sat back down with Biscuit. What do you think? Did I overreact? Biscuit put his head on my foot. No opinion. The next morning started normally. Mrs. Chen at 6:44. Back on schedule. Jennifer Martinez at 7:02. Consistent as gravity. Rick Henderson at 7:52. Continuing his downward trend. But at 8:03, I noticed something new. A for sale sign going up in the Hendersons' front yard. I stared at it. They'd only been here 8 months. Carol Henderson stood on the lawn, hugging herself, watching the real estate agent pound the sign into the ground. She looked small and sad and like she wished she were anywhere else. I wanted to go over to ask if everything was okay. But Sarah's voice echoed in my head. Don't be nosy, Dad. So I just watched and wrote it down. The newspaper was still in the Kowalski's driveway. Now I was genuinely worried. After the morning school run, I called their number again. No answer. I left a message. Stanley, Marie, it's Walter from across the street. Just checking in. Give me a call when you get this. Then I did something I normally wouldn't do. I called Marie's sister, Helen, whose number I had because she'd been my dental hygienist for 20 years. Helen. It's Walter Peterson. I'm trying to reach Marie and Stanley. They haven't answered their phone. Oh, Walter. I meant to tell you. They're on a cruise. Left Tuesday morning. Some last-minute deal they found. They'll be gone 2 weeks. Relief flooded through me. Did they mention it to you before they left? Just called me Monday night, all excited. Why, is something wrong? No. Just noticed their newspaper piling up. I'll grab it for them. You're sweet. They'll appreciate that. I hung up feeling foolish. Mystery solved. No need to wait. I grabbed my notebook and flipped back to Wednesday's notes. The newspaper had been there Wednesday morning. But Helen said they'd left Tuesday morning. Which meant the paper from Tuesday should have been there too. And it hadn't been. I was sure of it. I'd specifically noted that Wednesday was the first day I'd seen it. Someone had taken Tuesday's paper but left Wednesday's. I sat there, trying to make sense of it. Maybe Stanley had grabbed Tuesday's paper before they left. Maybe the newspaper had been late on Tuesday. Maybe I was losing my mind and I had seen Tuesday's paper but forgotten. Getting old? I told Biscuit. Brains turning to mush. But something felt wrong. At 10:15, I walked over and collected the Kowalski's papers. Wednesdays and Thursdays, which had just been delivered. I'd grab their mail too, keep an eye on things while they were gone. It's what neighbors did. I was coming back across the street when the white van turned onto Maple. Same van. Same driver. 10:17 a.m. on a Thursday. This time, it drove slowly past the Patel's house, continued to the end of the street, turned around in the cul-de-sac, and came back. Crawling along, the driver's head turning to look at each house. I stood in my driveway, papers in hand, staring directly at the van. The driver noticed me. For a moment, we made eye contact. He was young, maybe 30. Needed a shave. Expression hard to read behind sunglasses. Then he sped up and was gone. I went inside and called Officer Chen. He came back. Chen sounded alert, interested. What time? 10:17. Drove the whole length of the street, turned around, came back. Saw me watching and took off. Did you get the plate this time? Partial. Started with 7HK, couldn't see the rest. That's helpful. What color was the van again? White. No markings. Ford, I think. Maybe a Transit. I'm going to increase patrols in your area. If you see it again, I'll call immediately. Mr. Peterson. Be careful, okay? Don't approach the vehicle. Just observe and report. Don't worry, officer. Approaching things isn't really in my skill set anymore. I spent the rest of the morning on high alert, but the van didn't return. The afternoon school run happened without incident. Jennifer did her evening jog. The Henderson's house sat with its sad for sale sign. At 7:30 p.m., I was heating up one of Sarah's sandwiches when my doorbell rang. Biscuit barked. A rusty, out of practice sound that scared us both. I looked through the peephole. Linda Chen stood on my porch with a casserole dish. Linda, what a nice surprise. Walter, I hope you don't mind. I made too much lasagna and thought you and Biscuit might like some. She handed me the dish, still warm. Harold told me about the van. About you calling Danny. Just being cautious. I think you're being smart. She lowered her voice, even though we were alone. Carol Henderson came by yesterday. She's leaving Rick. The house sale. It's part of the divorce. I felt a pang of guilt for all my speculation. I'm sorry to hear that. He was having an affair. Carol found out last month. Linda shook her head. I know you noticed something was wrong. Harold said you always notice. I don't like noticing these things. I'd rather everyone was happy. But they're not always happy. And sometimes it helps to have someone who notices. Who cares? She patted my arm. Don't let Sarah make you feel bad about caring. After she left, I sat with Biscuit and the lasagna. Which was excellent. And thought about Carol Henderson. About how I'd watched her marriage fall apart in real time through small observations. Late departures, closed curtains, slumped shoulders. We see too much. I told Biscuit. That's our problem. But seeing too much was better than seeing nothing at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2:47 a.m., I got up to get water and happened to glance out my front window. The white van was parked 4 houses down, in front of the Albright house. No lights on inside it. Just sitting there in the darkness. I grabbed my phone and called Officer Chen's direct number. Chen. He sounded alert despite the hour. It's Walter Peterson. The van is back. Parked in front of 267 Maple. No lights, no movement. Stay inside. I'm 5 minutes away. I stayed by the window, watching. Biscuit joined me, pressing his nose against the glass. At 2:51, the van's lights came on. It pulled away from the curb and drove off, turning onto Oak Street. At 2:54, a police cruiser turned onto Maple, lights off, moving slowly. I called Chen back. It left. Headed toward Oak about 3 minutes ago. Did you see the driver get out? No. Just sat there, then drove away. Okay. I'm going to cruise the area. Lock your doors, Mr. Peterson. I watched the cruiser disappear, then looked at Biscuit. This is real, isn't it? This isn't just me being paranoid. Biscuit leaned against my leg. For once, I wanted to be wrong. Chapter 4. Convergence. Friday morning, I was exhausted. 3 hours of sleep and my hip aching from standing at the window half the night. Biscuit looked how I felt. Like someone who'd signed up for a peaceful retirement and gotten a crime drama instead. But there we were on the porch at 6:30, because patterns mattered and routines held the world together. Mrs. Chen was late. She didn't emerge until 7:12, and when she did, she came straight across the street to me. "Walter, Danny told us about last night. The van coming back." Her face was tight with worry. "Harold wants to organize a neighborhood watch meeting." "That's a good idea. Can you come?" "Tonight, 7 p.m., at our place. We need someone who actually knows what's going on." I agreed, though the idea of being the center of attention made me want to hide in my house for a week. The day crawled by. No white van. No incidents. Just the usual rhythm of Maple Street. Work departures, mail delivery, the lawn service guys doing the Patel's yard with their too loud equipment. At 4:15, Sarah called. "Dad, I heard about the van." Mom heard it from Carol Henderson, who heard it from Linda Chen. The gossip network remains strong. "This isn't funny. You called the police at 3 in the morning?" 2:47, actually. "Dad. Sarah, someone is casing houses on our street. Probably the same person who hit Sycamore. I'm just reporting what I see." She was quiet for a moment. "Are you scared?" The question surprised me. Was I scared? No. Annoyed, maybe. Concerned for the neighborhood. But not scared. "Promise me you won't do anything dangerous." "I promise. I'm going to a neighborhood watch meeting tonight. Very dangerous. Might be cookies." "There better be cookies. And call me when you get home." At 7 p.m., Biscuit and I walked the 3 houses to the Chen's place. My hip complained, but I ignored it. Biscuit made his opinions about evening walks very clear through a series of aggrieved sighs. 14 people packed into the Chen's living room. More than I'd expected. Linda had indeed made cookies. Snickerdoodles, my favorite. Harold stood at the front. "Thanks for coming, everyone. I think we all know why we're here. Walter, you want to explain what you've been seeing?" Suddenly, 14 faces turned to me. I hate public speaking. Always have. But I cleared my throat and walked them through it. The van's multiple appearances, the driver's behavior, the timing, the way it fit with the Sycamore Street break-ins. "How do you know all this?" Marcus Williams asked. "About what times people come and go?" "I'm retired. I sit on my porch. I notice things." "He's being modest," Linda said. "Walter notices everything. Last month he's the one who figured out why the Patel's cat kept getting out. Remember, Dev?" Dev Patel, sitting with his parents, grinned. Mr. Peterson saw that the cat was pushing through a loose board in our fence. Dad never would have found it. "The point is," Harold continued, "we need to be more aware. Look out for each other. If you see something unusual, call the police. And maybe we should all get to know our neighbors better." Officer Danny Chen, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, spoke up. "My department is taking this seriously. We're increasing patrols. But Mr. Peterson is right. This person is likely studying your routines. So mix them up. Come home at different times. Leave lights on. Maybe park cars in different spots." "I work from home," Angela Johnson said. "Should I be worried?" "Just be aware. Keep doors locked. Don't open them for people you don't know." Cynthia Albright raised her hand. "What about getting cameras? For our doorbells?" "Cameras are great," Chen said. "If you can afford them, do it. The footage could be helpful." After the official meeting ended, people mingled. Jennifer Martinez came over to me, still in her running gear from her evening jog. "Mr. Peterson, I've been meaning to ask. Do you really remember everyone's schedules? Not on purpose. It just happens. That's actually really impressive. She lowered her voice. I noticed something weird yesterday. When I was running, a white van followed me for about 3 blocks. Every nerve in my body went alert. What time? Around 6:30. Evening run. It stayed behind me, going really slow. Then it turned off. Did you get a plate number? No, I was kind of freaked out. I just wanted to get home. She looked embarrassed. I thought I was being paranoid. You weren't. Can you tell Officer Chen? He's right over there. While Jennifer talked to Chen, I found myself next to Dev Patel's father, Raj. Mr. Peterson, thank you for keeping an eye out. Raj said. I had no idea you paid such close attention to our schedule. I hope it doesn't seem creepy. No. It's comforting, actually. To know someone's watching. He hesitated. My wife and I both work long hours. Dev's home alone from 3:30 until we get back at 6. I worry about that. Dev's a smart kid. But if you want, I can keep an extra eye out. Make sure he gets home okay. Raj's relief was palpable. Would you? That would be such a weight off our minds. By the time Biscuit and I left at 8:30, we had a plan. A phone tree for reporting suspicious activity, a shared document of everyone's schedules, voluntary, and a commitment to look out for each other. Harold walked us out. Thanks for coming, Walter. For taking this seriously. Someone has to. Linda's right, you know. You see things others miss. Always have. I thought about that on the walk home. About seeing Carol Henderson's pain. About noticing the wrongness of the Kowalski's newspaper. About how paying attention could be both a gift and a curse. Biscuit and I were almost to my front porch when I noticed the envelope tucked into my door. No address. No stamp. Just my name written in block letters. Walter Peterson. I picked it up carefully, suddenly aware of how quiet the street was. Everyone else was still at the Chen's house or inside their own homes. Just me and Biscuit and this envelope. Inside the house, I opened it with shaking hands. The note was typed, printed on plain white paper. Stop watching. Mind your own business. This is your only warning. I sat down heavily. Biscuit whined and put his head on my knee. Well, I said. I guess we're doing something right if we're making them nervous. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I called Officer Chen. He arrived 15 minutes later with another officer I didn't recognize. They photographed the note, bagged it as evidence, and asked me a dozen questions I couldn't answer. You need to take this seriously, Mr. Peterson. Chen said. This is a threat. I am taking it seriously. I mean, stay inside. Stop the porch sitting. Stop the walks. Let us handle this. I looked at Biscuit and back at Chen. If I stop, they win. They get to operate freely because they scared an old man into hiding. They're trying to protect you. The other officer started. I don't need protection. I need to protect my street. I stood up, my hips screaming. These are my neighbors. Some of them have been my neighbors for 40 years. I'm not going to stop watching out for them because some punk left me a nasty note. Chen looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face stopped him. At least let us increase patrols. And get a deadbolt for your door. Better locks on your windows. Fine. But I'm not stopping. After they left, I called Sarah. She screamed at me for 5 minutes. Then she cried. Then she made me promise to at least consider coming to stay with her for a while. Can't. I said. Biscuit hates your apartment. Too many stairs. Dad, this isn't funny. I know, sweetheart. But I'm not leaving. This is my home. That night, I barely slept again. Every sound made me jump. Biscuit stayed glued to my side, which would have been touching if it weren't so unlike him. At 3:17 a.m., I heard an engine outside. I looked out the window. The white van, parked directly in front of my house. The driver's window down. Someone sitting there, looking at my house. Looking at my window. Seeing me. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but before I could dial, the van pulled away. Not speeding. Just leaving. Casually. Like a warning. I called Chen anyway. He was here. Right in front of my house. He saw me watching. I'm sending a car right now. Stay inside. But I didn't go back to bed. I sat in my chair by the window with Biscuit at my feet, watching my street, waiting for dawn. At 6:15, as the first light crept over the rooflines, I made a decision. Come on, Biscuit. Let's go to the porch. If they wanted to scare me inside, I'd do the opposite. I'd be more visible than ever. Biscuit looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But at 6:30, there we were. Same porch. Same chair. Same watch. Mrs. Chen came out at 6:44. She saw me and relief washed over her face. She waved. I waved back. At 7:02, Jennifer Martinez jogged by. When she saw me, she gave me a thumbs up. At 7:34, even Rick Henderson. Stressed, affair-having, soon-to-be divorced Rick Henderson. Gave me a small wave as he left for work. The message was clear. We saw you too. We're not hiding. And at 9:30, when Biscuit and I started our morning rounds, 7 different neighbors were outside. Gardening. Getting the mail. Checking the car. All of them watching. All of them refusing to hide. Chapter 5. Resolution. The standoff lasted 3 days. Saturday passed without incident. No white van. No notes. Just an unusually vigilant neighborhood where people suddenly discovered urgent reasons to be outside at all hours. Harold Chen walked his loop twice. Jennifer Martinez added a midday run to her schedule. Angela Johnson worked on her laptop on her front porch. Even Marcus Williams turned down his car stereo. A miracle that convinced me the apocalypse might be imminent. Strength in numbers, Harold said on Saturday evening, when he stopped by my porch. Nobody wants to rob a house when half the street is watching. Assuming our guy notices. Oh, he's noticed. Danny says they haven't seen the van anywhere in the area since Friday. I wanted to feel relieved. Instead, I felt unsettled. People like this don't just give up. Maybe he moved on to easier targets. Maybe. But I didn't believe it, and neither did Biscuit, who'd been on high alert for days, his head swiveling at every car engine, every footstep. Sunday morning, Sarah arrived for her regular visit looking like she hadn't slept. You look terrible. I told her. I've been worried sick about you. You got a threatening note, Dad. Normal people would be scared. I am scared. I'm just not letting fear run my life. I handed her a cup of coffee. Made the way she liked it, which required the instruction manual for my coffee maker. Besides, I think he's gone. Moved on. Danny Chen doesn't think so. That caught my attention. You talked to Danny Chen? He came to my office Friday. Wanted to know about your medical history, your habits, whether you'd actually listen if they told you to back off. She took a sip of coffee. I told him you're the most stubborn man in 3 counties. You say the sweetest things. Dad. She put down her cup. They think this guy might escalate. The note wasn't enough to scare you off, so what? He's going to come after a 74-year-old man and his geriatric dog? That'll really help him stay under the radar. Danny thinks he might try to rob your house. As a message. Or. She couldn't finish the sentence. Or hurt me. I said it for her. I know, sweetheart. But I've got good locks now. Danny's got a patrol car coming by every hour. And half the neighborhood is watching my house like it's the most interesting thing on television. It's not funny. It's a little funny. She stayed until evening, making me promise to call her twice a day. After she left, the house felt too quiet. I sat on the couch with Biscuit, listening to the tick of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of kids playing basketball 3 houses down. At 8:47 p.m., my phone rang. Officer Chen. Mr. Peterson, we found the van. Abandoned in a parking lot over on Sycamore. Wiped clean, plates removed, but it's definitely the same vehicle. Abandoned when? Hard to say. Sometime in the last 24 hours. I processed this. He ditched it because people were looking for it. Which means, he might have a new vehicle. Different approach. Chen paused. I need you to promise me you'll be extra careful. No solo walks. No porch sitting after dark. Keep your phone on you at all times. I promise. After hanging up, I looked at Biscuit. New vehicle. That's not good. Biscuit's expression conveyed that nothing about this situation was good, and had I considered moving to a nice retirement community in Florida? Monday morning, I decided to break routine. Instead of the porch at 6:30, I stayed inside. Watched the street from my living room window instead. Mrs. Chen came out at 6:44. Looked confused when I wasn't on the porch. Shrugged and went back to her garden. Jennifer Martinez jogged by at 7:02. Glanced at my porch. Kept running. The school run happened. Work departures. The mailman at 11:15. All normal. All ordinary. Too ordinary. At 1:30 p.m., I saw the car. Not a van this time. A dark blue sedan. It drove past slowly, the driver's head turning to look at each house. When it reached the end of the street, it turned around and came back. I grabbed my phone and dialed Chen. Dark blue sedan, looks like a Honda Accord. Can't see the plate from here. Driving the same pattern as the van. I'm 10 minutes away. Stay on the phone with me. The car made another pass. Then another. On the 4th pass, it slowed down in front of the Albright house. Cynthia was at work, house empty. And the driver leaned forward, studying it. He's scoping the Albright place. I told Chen. Don't go outside. Just keep watching. The car moved on. Past the Johnsons. Both home, working. Past the Patels. Empty. Past the Henderson sad for sale sign. Then it stopped in front of the Kowalski's house. My blood went cold. The Kowalski's house was empty. Would be empty for another week. No cars in the driveway. Newspapers stopped. Mail held. The perfect target. The driver got out. White male, 30s, dark jeans, grey hoodie. Same guy I'd seen in the van. He looked up and down the street. Casually, like he belonged. Then walked up the Kowalski's driveway toward their back gate. He's at the Kowalski's. I told Chen. Going around back. I'm 3 minutes away. Do not engage. But someone had to slow him down, give Chen time to get here. I looked at Biscuit. Stay. Then I did the stupidest thing I've done in 74 years. I walked outside. Not to the Kowalski's house. To my porch. Where I'd be visible. Where I'd be a witness. I sat down in my chair, picked up my coffee mug. Stone cold, but the guy wouldn't know that, and stared directly at the Kowalski's house. 30 seconds later, the guy came back around the side of the house. He saw me. We locked eyes. I raised my coffee mug in greeting. He froze, calculating. Old man on a porch. Probably harmless. Probably didn't see anything. But I was watching. And he knew it. I pulled out my phone, made a show of looking at it. Not calling. Just looking. The implied threat clear. I could call. I might call. Are you sure you want to find out? The guy took one step back toward the Kowalski's house. Then another step back. Then he turned and walked quickly to his car. I hit the speed dial for Chen. He's leaving. Dark blue Honda, heading toward Oak. Police sirens, suddenly close. 2 cars came around the corner, lights flashing. The Honda tried to turn around, but Marcus Williams's Buick was pulling out of his driveway, blocking the street. Marcus saw what was happening and just stopped. Right there in the middle of the road. Not moving. The Honda was trapped. The driver jumped out and ran. Made it maybe 20 feet before Harold Chen, 72 years old and supposedly just out for a walk, stuck out his cane and tripped him. The guy went down hard. Harold stood over him, cane raised like a sword, looking more like a warrior than a retired accountant. By the time Officer Chen and his partner reached them, half the street had emptied out. Jennifer Martinez, Angela Johnson, Raj and Dev Patel, Tommy Reed with his twins. All of them standing there, watching, making sure Harold was safe and the bad guy stayed down. Are you insane? Chen shouted at me after the suspect was handcuffed and in a patrol car. I told you not to engage. I didn't engage. I sat on my porch and had coffee. You provoked him. I existed in his vicinity. That's different. Sarah was going to kill me. If Chen didn't get to it first. But Harold came over, grinning like a teenager who'd just won the big game. Did you see that takedown? Still got it. You were amazing. I told him honestly. Linda appeared, looking torn between pride and fury. Harold Chen, you could have been hurt. But I wasn't. And we got him. Harold was practically bouncing. Walt was the bait and I was the trap. Nobody was bait. Chen said tiredly. This was terrible police work and I'm never letting either of you watch cop shows again. But he was smiling. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. More police arrived. Statements were taken. The Kowalskis were called and informed that their house had almost been robbed, but their elderly neighbor and his equally elderly friend had somehow prevented it. By the time things calmed down, it was nearly 6 p.m. The street had emptied except for a few stragglers talking in clusters, rehashing the excitement. Biscuit and I sat on the porch, exhausted. Sarah pulled up at 6:47. She got out of her car, walked straight to me, and hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. I heard. She said into my shoulder. Danny called me. You could have been hurt. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. I'm fine. She pulled back, tears on her cheeks. You're an idiot. I'm your idiot. Promise me. Promise me. No more detective work. I promise. No more detective work. Good. Just the usual observing. Dad. Someone has to watch the street, Sarah. That's what neighbors do. 2 weeks later, things had mostly returned to normal. The guy in the Honda, whose name was Derek Simmons, and who'd been responsible for at least 8 burglaries across 3 neighborhoods, was in jail. The white van turned out to be stolen. The whole operation was bigger than anyone had thought. The Kowalskis came home from their cruise tan and happy, with a bottle of rum for me and a new collar for Biscuit as thanks for watching their house. Rick Henderson moved out. Carol stayed, took down the for sale sign, and joined Linda Chen's book club. The neighborhood watch meetings continued, now monthly, with actual organization and a phone tree that worked. And every morning at 6:30, Biscuit and I took our place on the porch. Mrs. Chen emerged at 6:44. Give or take 3 minutes. Jennifer Martinez jogged past at 7:02. Like clockwork. The school run happened. The mail came. Life continued in its patterns and rhythms. Harold joined me on the porch sometimes, his cane leaning against my railing, both of us watching the street we'd protected together. Think we're heroes? He asked one morning. I think we're nosy old men who got lucky. Same thing, really. Biscuit woofed his agreement. Sarah visited more often now, bringing vegetables and worry in equal measure. She'd accepted that I wasn't moving to her apartment or a retirement community or anywhere that wasn't Maple Street. You scared me, she said one Sunday afternoon. I scared myself. But you do it again. To protect the neighborhood? Yeah. I would. She smiled. Mom was right about you. You're stubborn as a rock. Your mother was right about many things. Don't tell her I said that. One evening in late March, I was sitting on the porch when Dev Patel came by on his bike. He skidded to a stop at the bottom of my steps. Mr. Peterson. Guess what? What? My science volcano got first place. They're putting it in the school display case. That's wonderful, Dev. I knew it would. Thanks for being excited about it back when I first showed you. My dad said you always notice the good stuff. After he rode away, I thought about that. Notice the good stuff. Not just the problems, the threats, the irregularities. The good stuff too. I pulled out my notebook and, for the first time in 43 years, I wrote something different. Dev Patel's volcano. First place. Mrs. Chen's roses. Finally blooming after rough winter. Jennifer Martinez. Ran entire loop without stopping. Personal record. Carol Henderson. Smiled today. First time in months. Harold Chen. Still bragging about his takedown. Good for him. Biscuit put his head on my foot and sighed contentedly. You're right. I told him. We see the good stuff too. The sun set over Maple Street, painting the houses in shades of gold. Somewhere a basketball bounced. Someone's wind chimes sang in the breeze. Tommy Reed's twins giggled as they chased fireflies. All normal. All ordinary. All worth watching. All worth protecting. Same time tomorrow? I asked Biscuit. His tail thumped twice against the porch boards. Same time tomorrow. Always. Because someone had to watch. Someone had to notice. Someone had to care. Might as well be us.